What is going on, YouTube people? Northeast Ohio Cards and Comics here for a mail day. And not just any mail day, a massive mail day. This is the most expensive thing I think I've ever purchased collectibles. Well, actually, not I think. I know that it is. There's no I think about it. But we are checking a big one off the list. Anyone that's been watching the channel for a while knows I've been talking about picking one of these up for a hot minute. There were some really good guesses I teased it during the live stream earlier this week. People were guessing comic books. They were guessing Juan Soto Bowman Chromes. What else was a big guess? Jim Brown rookies, all sorts of guesses. So I have three things to go through. We'll save the best for last, but anyone that wants to venture a guess, go ahead and guess down below, but we'll go ahead and start getting into it. But yeah, guess what you guys think it is. Like I said, anyone that's watched the channel for a while will at least be able to narrow it down. Like I said, the people that were guessing guessed very, very well. So the first two items came from the same seller. They're both actually comic books. I purchased these A1 Comics, which is a massive comic book shop out in California. They have a very big Instagram presence. They do live claim sales on IG Live every Wednesday and Thursday. And a lot of times they're themed. And I always kind of poke in and see what's going on. This past Friday's was X-Men and Avengers. And I was like, oh, those are both things that I like. Let me see what they got going. And they had two books up on the wall. And I really wanted the one. And the other one is one that I've always wanted. But I would have preferred it in a 9/8. But then I thought about it. And I'm like, you know what? It's more of a PC item. I just really like the cover. And they don't come up in 9/8 very often. The census count on them is pretty low. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's pretty low. So the first one is Uncanny X-Men, or just X-Men at the point in time, 112. Nothing special about this book at all. It is not a key, and this is in a CGC 9.6 white pages, a little custom label action. I really like the X-Men custom label. It's Giant Size X-Men #1. There's no real specific key about this book. At least I don't believe so. Yeah, just Magneto appearance. I've just always loved this cover. There's a nice little series in a run here where the X-Men are fighting Magneto across a couple different issues. All the covers are great. I always really like this one. He's just tossing Colossus to the side. He's using Wolverine's claws against him. Storm doesn't know what's going on. Always been a big fan of this book. Really want to one in a 9/8, but they just don't come up very often, and the prices are usually pretty expensive on a 9/8, considering it's a non-key just because of the cover. So this was on the wall for $250, which is about what they usually go for. So I comboed that with another one, and this is one that I've always wanted, and I just never got around to getting it. Something always jumped in front of it, and it's also an X-Men book. And that is, and I've talked about this book a lot on the channel, Uncanny X-Men 129. This is a pretty big X-Men key. This is a major X-Men key, actually. And I got this in a CGC 9.6. Now, I usually like to buy 9/8, but this book in a 9/8 is still going for about $4,000. Back in the peak, this was going for $6,000 to $7,000, like $6,000 regularly in a 9/8. They've come down quite a bit, and I feel like they've kind of leveled out to where they're going to level out at. They had this on the wall for, I think, $1,250, $1,200, which is a little high. They've been going for around 1,000-ish, between 1,000 and like $1,050, $1,075. So I got the two of them together for $1,300. So this one for $250, this one for $1,050. For those not super familiar with X-Men stuff, the reason this book is super popular are a couple different reasons. One, it's part of the Dark Phoenix run, which is a major X-Men storyline. And then, nice thing that CGC does, they tell you on the label what's going on with it. First appearance of Kitty Pryde, aka Shadowcat. First appearance of the White Queen. First appearance of Sebastian Shaw. And first appearance of Mastermind. So essentially the first appearance of the Hellfire Club. So it's like a quadruple key. Mostly it's boosted up because of Shadowcat and White Queen. But I always love the ads on the back just because they make me think of toys that I used to see on commercials when I was a kid. This book came out in 80, a little bit before my time. But always really, really wanted one of these. Been chasing one of these for a while. So very glad to knock this one off the list. I would like to put the entire Dark Phoenix run together. I now have 2 from that book. I have this and I have 133. So I'm still missing some of the other ones, but honestly, 133 is the toughest to find in my opinion. And this is the most expensive. I would have liked it in a 9.8. There was no way I was ever going to pay $4K for this book in a 9.8. So I'm perfectly fine with a 9.6. And if it goes way up, the 9.6 will go up with it. So those are those 2. Now on to the main event. So your guesses are done. Anyone that's watched the channel for a while knows I recently, as of, I think it was about 2 or 3 months ago, picked up a copy of Giant Size X-Men #1. So this is not new. This is the one that I've had. 7.0 white pages. Definitely has a spine roll for sure, but 7.0 white pages. This was about $4,500, give or take. This book is really flattened out. And there was one that I always wanted to pair it with. And I didn't really think I'd get there. It would be a matter of saving up a bunch of money for it. And that is Hulk 181. So there's going to be a little story behind this one, but I have finally locked away or knocked down a copy of Hulk 181. And I actually want you, I mean, a lot of people, I know a lot of people don't watch the comic book stuff, but someone could go ahead and try to guess the grade on this if you're a big comic book guy. To me, this presented super well for the grade that it is in. That's what drew me to it, and I'll kind of talk about, there was a little bit of a hunt for this book, actually. We'll talk about that in a second. This was semi-planned, semi-unplanned. But yeah, so take a look, guess what you think the grade is. Colors, a lot of times what you see on this book is the red fades. But this one just looked absolutely gorgeous. And it's a lower grade than you probably expect, at least in my opinion. And I am not an expert comic grader. This is a CGC 6.5 white pages. Came out in 1974. So 6.5 white. We'll just kind of see if I can stand this up here without knocking a bunch of stuff over. Will that stay there? Let me put... Here, we'll use Baker. He's good for something. Put him as a little doorstop there. So CGC 6.5 white pages. I'm thrilled to have this. Like I said, semi-unexpected. The fun money pile was building up a little bit. The fake money pile was building up a little bit. And then I sold that lot of cards to 101 over the weekend. And it kind of put me in the range where it's like, you know, if you run across one, you could think about it. Like we can knock it off. The problem was, depending on the grade, it was going to empty the fun money pile. So I am cashed out for a while. I got to build it back up again, which I don't normally like to do. I didn't reach for this. I didn't spend outside my means. I spent exactly basically what was in the fun money pile, which is kind of why I feel like this one was almost meant to be. I'll talk about that in a second. So full disclosure, this set me back 5.5K. That trumps the Giant Size X-Men #1, which was my most expensive collectible item at 4.5. So this is a big boy. I actually, even though it came from the fun money pile, I talked to the wife before I bought this one. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Is that cool? Just FYI, like not necessarily get permission, but it's like, you know, this one's a lot. So I just wanted to make sure that she was fine with it. And she blessed it. So the story time behind this one. Like I said, I had the money and I've been kind of glancing at them in various different grades across eBay. Most of the stuff on eBay, kind of like cards, people are pricing at comps from 6 months ago and they're not willing to move in a lot of cases. So, you know, I was keeping my eye out if something popped up in a mid-grade. So I was looking from anything from a 4.0 to probably like a 5 or a 6, depending on the price. So Sunday night, this past Sunday night, and this shipped fast, by the way. This past Sunday night, this got listed on My Slabs for, they were asking $5,800, I think, with best offer. And I thought about it and I was like, man, it was gorgeous. I was like, this is a very clean copy for a 6.5 in my opinion. It looks way better than a 6.5. I'll kind of go over why it got a 6.5, or at least why I think it got a 6.5. I didn't pull grader's notes, but the guy that sold it to me kind of gave me the rundown. I'm like, why is this a 6.5? I'm like, it looks super clean. But we'll talk about that in a second. So it goes up on Sunday night. I messaged a few people and I'm like, should I do this? Like, it would wipe me out, like, for the time being, wipe out the fun money pile. And I don't like I said, I don't like wiping it out because you never know what's going to pop up. And if something pops up, I like to be able to move on it. So even when I bought this, I left a little in reserve just in case something spicy came up. But this is kind of one of those things that just don't come up very often priced correctly. And this was listed dead on comps. He had it up at 5,800. One had just sold at Heritage last week, I think, in a 6.5 for 5.8, and that was off-white to white. And I don't know exactly how much off-white to white versus white adds premium-wise. I know the white's more desirable. I don't think it adds a ton value-wise to it, but it'd be easier to move probably. If the two books are side by side, someone's going to go for a white pages 10 out of 10 times. So I sleep on it and I'm like, okay, I'll put an offer in. And I knew that the bottom offer that he would accept was 5,300 because on my slabs you could submit and then it will like tell you when an offer will go through. So I toyed around with a couple different numbers, found that 5,300 was his bottom number, and I didn't submit it. I said, let me sleep on this. I can't just like hair pull this. And if it sells, it sells. So I wake up Monday morning and it's not listed anymore. And I was like, oh, I knew it was a good deal. Someone probably sniped it. Great. So I looked at my slab's sold listings page and it wasn't there. So I texted the link to someone. So I clicked on the link and it was still there. It was just in his collection. He pulled it from sale. And I was like, man, because I kind of made up my mind that I was going to throw an offer in on it at that point. And there's no way to send messages on my slabs. So I was like, well, I guess, we're toast on this. And I was like, well, let me look his username up. Like you could see my slab's usernames. So I saw his username and I searched IG for it. It didn't pop anything. I was like, well, I tried. And then I said, let me try one more thing. And I just Google searched the username. And it pulled up an eBay page. And I said, oh, interesting. It was a semi-unique name. So it wasn't like, sports cards, comic books 101 or something like that. So I looked at his eBay page and he had sold a bunch of comic books. I looked at the sold listings. He had nothing actively listed, but he had sold a bunch of comic books. And I was like, this must be the guy. Whatever. Shoot your shot, kid. So I sent him a message and I said, hey, do you by chance have a Hulk 181? Just assuming that, they would put the pieces to the puzzle together. So sorry, my slabs. I tried to buy this on your platform. I really did. I'm close with those guys. So if you had a messaging system, I know you guys are semi against that, but if you had a messaging system, I could have messaged on your platform. So then later in the day, I get an email, not an eBay message back. I get an email to the email account that I have listed on the YouTube channel. And the gentleman, I won't go into complete details, but basically said, hey, did you message me about a Hulk 181? If you didn't, sorry to bother you. Also, enjoy your content. I watch a lot of your stuff. So here, this guy ends up, obviously it was me. This guy ended up watching some of my stuff, was aware of me from the YouTube channel, lives in California. And I emailed back. I was like, yeah, this is me. I said, where do you want to be at on it? Yada, yada, yada. We went back and forth and settled on 55. Actually, we really didn't go back and forth much. He goes, I'll do 5,500. He's like, the only reason I pulled it, I said, it got pulled. I thought you sold it. And he said, no. He said, I listed it on there. And then I was also listing it with a IG consigner. And the IG consigner stipulation was it couldn't be listed any other places for sale. So he pulled it for my slabs to see if it would sell on there first. Before putting it back up on my slabs. So we settled at 5,500, goods and services shipped, and here it now sits. He shipped it on Monday, and I have it on, I'm recording this Thursday afternoon to post Friday morning. So that's the fun. Then the other fun little part of this story is my slabs post on IG any of the big comics books listed the previous day. And on Monday afternoon, they posted and they tagged me in it, and they're like, hey, this would make a really nice bookend. And I actually commented, and I'm like, I have a funny story about this one. So once again, shout out to My Slabs. I would have loved to have bought this on your guys' platform, but it just didn't happen to work out that way. So maybe the next one, but it did turn me on to it. So yeah, a Hulk 181 is now in the collection. If you would have told me at the beginning of the year that I'd have both these two, a giant size X-Men 1 and a Hulk 181 on my desk, there's no way I probably would have believed you. Real quick on the Hulk 181. So it presents, I believe, excellently. So what is going on with it? And there is some color breaking, very faint color breaking crease going down this side of the book. You could see it right there. Very faint. You can see it a little bit there on the purple. And a little bit more there. It's a little bit more noticeable there on the purple. You can see it right there. And then it has some spine ticks, which, you know, not surprising on a book from the 70s. These don't pop up. And super high grade very often. You know, a little color break there, some color break there. But once again, not a comic book grader, so I don't know if this was fairly graded or not. There's a color break there. Back looks pretty solid. I didn't really notice anything super crazy on the back. A little bit of stain up in the top here, but not too crazy. But overall looks pretty good. Maybe a little tiny stain down there, but not bad at all. And the big thing with this book is, so there's a coupon in here, there's a Marvel value stamp in here, and a lot of them, it was removed. So then it gets a green label, and that drastically hits the value down on. So you really want this one on a blue label if you're going to get one. A lot of people like the green label just for presentation purposes. It doesn't affect story or anything like that. So, but yeah, this is now in the collection. Like I said, never thought I would have those two side by side on the desk. So really excited to have this one. This is a big one off the list. That, other than an X-Men #1, which, you know, I don't want to say I'll never own one. Never is a very long time. But in like a 1.0, that's like a $10,000 book. I think. I haven't looked in a while, but even in the lowest of grades, that's like tens of thousands of dollars. That would be a really big one to knock off. I'd almost rather own these two than an X-Men #1. Like, not from necessarily an investment standpoint. I think an X-Men #1 is more valuable, obviously, and has more long-term potential. But so do both of these. And this is more, like, X-Men 1 would be cool from a nostalgic factor. Like, this is the X-Men. I didn't necessarily grow up with these X-Men because this was the 70s into the 80s. You know, Giant Size X-Men #1 came out in 75. The Dark Phoenix run was in the 80s. But that's the X-Men that I think a lot of people associate with, even if they didn't necessarily grow up with them, because that Chris Claremont run was just so good. I came to the X-Men with the Jim Lee X-Men in the 90s, prior to the X-Men animated series, that late 80s, early 90s X-Men. But then once I found them and went back, the 70s and 80s X-Men are what I fell in love with. So to knock these two off, I don't even know what the next one on the list is. And that was part of the reason why I just said, let's just pull the trigger and get this one done. Because, frankly, they all get easier from here. Like, this was the last of, you know, these were the two big ones. So everything else now is a lot smaller in price, and it'll be a lot easier to just kind of pick up here and there. But that's all I have for you guys and girls today. Sorry, this was probably a little long and a little rambly, but I'm just really excited to have this one in. So I just kind of can't stop talking about it. It's kind of one of those things. So like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch all you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.